Welcome, angry faithful. Yes, we are all here, and the world's going to sunder because of Trump's tariffs, and the stock market is going to crash, and we're all going in a blaze of glory today.
We're gonna die!
Oh my God! Everybody, stay calm. Stay calm. See, if I had my soundboard, I'd have played that sound.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is happening.
It's happening. It's happening, everybody. So Trump did a lot of okay, the layoffs that was from this week was actually not from Trump. It was from RFK and the his department, the health department. And it was about 80,000. And then I found out what's really sad about that, even though it was 80,000 of how much Clinton and Obama, I'm talking about 60,000 to 800,000 people. Both those administrations basically kicked everybody out. So, yeah. Just to let y'all know, every administration, when they come in, they usually downsize a lot of stuff. So
He's got another group going out Monday, I think. Another big kicking them out, the IRS, a bunch of people from the IRS.
I think that one is based because he keeps on. Everybody's saying it's like it's 86,000, when in all reality it's 86,000 that was supposed to come to work, but they decided to get rid of it.
Well, the 86,000 was a combination of attrition, people who were retiring. They just weren't filling open positions. There was a lot with that. It wasn't actually going to be 80-some thousand new hires, but I think you can check the number. I think 50,000 Monday, something like that.
The IRS.
Yeah. But they say he's doing everything so quick, and he needs to slow down. Well, you got stuff like the Institute of Peace. Elon tried to get into the Institute of Peace, and he had to finally get I don't know if it was FBI, Department of Justice or something, to get him in there because they had locked him out. Yeah. And what the people in there were doing is deleting terabytes of files. So that's why he's got to go just bam. He's got to come in like a sledgehammer. He can't go in like a scalpel. By the time he gets in, they'll have deleted things, moved things around. There won't be anything left, but at least they say Big Balls was able to recover from backups, all the files they deleted.
And the amount they're going to cut from the IRS is 25%, which is about 20,000 jobs.
Oh, okay.
So it's not even that much compared to what a lot of people are laying off.
And what a lot of people don't realize is there's all of these layoffs. Oh my gosh. Well, you got computer systems that are 40 years old. You upgrade the computer systems and you're not going to need as many people. And then they're merging departments. You're not going to need as much upper management when you merge departments. So when you talk about those big layoffs, a lot of them aren't even going to end up being the little guy.
No.
But I can see AI. I can see AI completely taking over a call center function.
Yeah.
Because I can work through a problem with a computer or a problem with anything, or a problem installing a vent hood over the stove, or a problem trying to fix a water heater and the elements and crap and find the replacements. I can work through Grok with it easier than I can work with someone on the phone who's an expert. And once you start working with him, when you have any problem or anything technical that you want to look up, it'll blow your mind. So he'll be able to do, you get the idiot on the phone at call centers. you're not going to get that. You're not going to have to transfer to the next level person and the third level person. AI is going to take it. He's going to hit it. And at least you'll understand it because it'll be speaking English. You won't get transferred from one foreign. Okay. And anyway, yeah, I've been working on water heater repair this week.
Yeah, that's what's really sad with a lot of the layoffs is a lot of people don't look at what's being laid off and what's being complimentary of the stuff. Now there is some layoffs that I just don't understand because through the health department they're laying off people that are doctors and actual scientists that are supposed to help out with pushing pharmaceuticals through. So I don't know if they just had too many or what that is. We lost Johnny. We lost Johnny.
Well, there's like he said last week, there's 40 different departments in HHS, and a lot of them overlap. So you've got them doing the same function. They can merge a lot of those departments because over time, over decades, it's like, okay, we want someone to do this. Okay, here's a brand new department to do that. Here's a brand new department to do that. So you've got multiple ones, and they're merging them. They'll eventually keep most of the scientists. It's the management type positions that overlap. Like I mentioned last week, there was 40 different agencies, 40 different individual procurement offices, one in each of those 40. Instead, you could have one procurement office getting pencils for all 40. And that's the kind of thing they're going to be getting rid of.
Okay,
that's where you get the savings.
That makes a lot of sense. The reason why you would want to downsize the department. Now, do we want to do anything? Do you want to say anything, Johnny, with before we get into the tariff part portion of our episode?
Well, I would, but I don't know if my internet's going to run out of talent because apparently it was put together by a DEI hire.
No, it was put together by a 5-year-old child in China.
You need Starlink.
Yeah.
I need some Starlink. Yeah, definitely, for sure.
But I guess we'll get into the tariffs. Now, there is a list of what countries and what percentage they're going to do. I clicked on it and it took me somewhere else.
Well, while you're looking that up, I know that the president did have a conversation with the chairman of the Communist Party in Vietnam. They came to an agreement that if they can enter into a deal with the United States, that they're going to cut their tariffs on us to zero.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the point.
Yeah, because the tariffs from Vietnam right now, I'm looking at the list. We had 90% in Vietnam. If we were shipping stuff to Vietnam, it was 90%.
Well, out of all of the stocks that took a beating today, Nike had a turnaround from yesterday. Because
really?
most of the materials that Nike uses to build their shoes with are sourced from Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
So Nike had a turnaround on their stocks. I think what needs to happen is that China needs to recognize that they cannot survive without trade with the United States.
I mean, that's what boosted up their economy anyways. And China actually is the one that really needs it a lot because they are about to go under.
Yeah, well, and here's the big thing that nobody wants to talk about is the fact that these deals like NAFTA, and stuff like that were signed under, George H.W.?
Yeah.
Back in the day, those were terrible deals. And then every president since then ignored it, and Canada did what they wanted with it, and they abused it just like every other trade deal with every other country.
Yeah, because
and Trump improved it as much as he could with the USMCA. It's still, and they say, well, that's a Trump deal and he's going against it. Well, it's better than NAFTA, but it's still not the greatest. It was the best he could get negotiated from the point he was starting at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think eventually what needs to end up happening is all of these other countries need to get in line, and they need to gang up on China, because China, their president with the reciprocal tax, would they increase their cap to 35% today?
Yeah.
All these other countries, like Japan, they've locked their market from U.S. automakers, right? Europe locked their markets to U.S. automakers. Yes, better trade deals definitely benefit the United States. They benefit the American worker. They benefit the American economy. But it also, once everything settles itself down, it's going to benefit everything on a global scale. And nobody wants to talk about that because the orange man is bad, apparently.
Well, speaking of Japan and Europe, basically Germany, two countries that we, after the war, we could have just totally screwed them all over again. We helped them out for 80 years for, with trade and getting their economy back up. So we didn't have the same problem again like we had after World War I, where we basically beat the crap out of Germany and all the other countries.
Right. And even South Korea. Even South Korea is guilty of locking the U.S. out of their markets, because you don't see any American electronics being sold in South Korea. I mean, South Korea is where Samsung is based.
Yeah.
Right. And right now, India, Vietnam, Canada, the UK, Israel, Taiwan, they're all going, hey, we're up to negotiating and possibly doing down to zero. Korea wants to renegotiate, likely in response to such as vehicles and electronics. So he's going to get some of these down to zero. But the ones right now that the big puff out their chests, we're so great, the EU scum, they've got no intention on it. And because what they do is they try to protect their own countries. It's like Germany will want to sell something or get something from Ireland, say, and they'll say, okay, put a tariff on America so that you'll buy from us and our people will buy from each other, and it'll be too expensive. So the whole EU gangs up. And that's what's been bad. And that VAT tax, their stupid ass VAT tax that right now is 21% average amongst the EU. When we ship a car over there, it's subject to that VAT tax. When they ship one here, the EU government refunds the VAT tax on the export. That's why our automobiles aren't sold over there. They're too expensive, but theirs come over here cheaper because of how, and that's what Trump said. If you want to listen to, it's more about market manipulation and the money manipulation than it is the percentage. That's what I meant by that. Like China is about to kill. A little while ago, I know the EU is having some problems with it, but China subsidizes BYD so much. That's why they can sell autos cheaper. Not necessarily the company itself can make them cheaper. It's the government of China, and that's the thing that Trump is after. Is that kind of manipulation, the subsidies.
Okay. That actually makes total sense. I've always wondered why China is being able to get vehicles for like $2,000.
And this is something I'd looked at before as far as that VAT tax. Now I didn't know until recently. I knew they put percentage tariffs on it, but I didn't realize until a few weeks ago that in addition to the percentage tariffs, we had the VAT tax on top of it. Because when people say, "Oh, it's so cheap," you go over in Europe and you got free healthcare and free this and free that. Well, yeah, you also have 50% income taxes, 40-50%. Then on top of that, when you go out and buy a television, you got to pay an extra. It's between 15 to 30, depending on the country, VAT tax.
Well, they have like I know in England they have TV tax, where you buy a TV, you're taxed on being able to watch TV.
Well, and then they subsidize the EVs so much that if you have an EV, they pay for your insurance. They pay for new tires. That comes from the government to the people of the UK as an incentive to buy an EV. But because of that, they don't have power generation capability. They can't generate their energy. They're just like California. They have to import energy.
Yeah. Johnny will be back with us in a little bit. He probably hit a silent area. But you had some videos that you wanted to share with us for the terror stuff?
Yeah, this is, Trump has never changed his viewpoint, ever. He's stable. He doesn't run with the polls to change his beliefs. So this was, I didn't catch the year. I think 1988. It may put it up here. This was him talking about terrorists with Oprah, who wanted him to run for president.
Yeah.
Last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Don?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country because you can't keep going on losing.
What'd you do? Bill, you muted yourself. No.
They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. And yet we
okay, I'll back it up.
Dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Open. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me. And I know people will talk to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not. But I do get tired of seeing the country ripped.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
Yeah. But, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings and we're not.
What do you think of this year's presidential race, the way it's shaping up?
Well, it's going to be very interesting. I think that probably George Bush has an advantage in terms of the election. I think that probably people would say that he's got like that little edge in terms of the incumbency, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Jesse Jackson's done himself very proud. I think Michael Dukakis has done one hell of a job. And George Bush has done a hell of a job. They all went in there sort of as semi-underdogs, including George Bush, and they've all come out. I think people that are around all three of those candidates can be very proud of the jobs they've done.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone into losing in my life. And if I did decide to do it, I think I'd be inclined. I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning because I think people, I don't know how your audience feels, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, But I can tell you one thing, this country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage. It wouldn't be the way it's been, believe me.
Yeah, it's been going on for, hold on. There we go. Yeah, it's actually been going on for more time frames than he was talking about on that. He was only talking about 25 years. It's actually been going on since like after World War II, in the 40s. And a lot of people don't understand that. They just keep on. They want to believe that this is just a recent development when it hasn't been. It's actually, I think it goes back even further than that. I think it goes back to I want to say the early 1900s, because we stopped doing tariffs during I want to say like during World War One. That's when we ended up doing like an income tax, so we can pay for that war.
Well, the one of the things they did, and Rand Paul voted with our typical turncoat Democrats on it, to try to pass something, and it passed the Senate, where Trump wouldn't be able to do anything with tariffs without congressional approval. Now, if he did that, the whole administration would be gone, because everyone would know that he wouldn't be serious, that they wouldn't take him serious, because they'd say, well, anything he said, he's got to go through Congress. And they said, well, you've got to do it the right way. Well,
Which is not the right way. Going through Congress is only for making laws and voting on a budget.
well, when they do a trade deal, when there's a trade deal done, they put a trade deal together, then our Congress has to vote on it for the final bill. Then it goes over to the other country's government. They have to vote to pass it. They might make some amendments. Then it goes back to our government. It bounces back and forth for years. Like one of the deals that he worked with his first term was a Korean trade deal. That deal began in 2004.
Oh, wow.
And in 2004, it went back and forth, the discussions between our government and Korea. And then 2006, there was a formal intent to negotiate. 2006 and 2007, 10 rounds of negotiation over 14 months. That's the going back and forth. Then in 2007, there was a breakthrough just before a critical deadline. And it was finally signed in 2011. It was ratified October 2011 by us. South Korea had to ratify it November of 2011. It went into effect in 2012. And then Trump said, hey, we're getting screwed with it. So in 2018 and 19, he renegotiated it. But he renegotiated to as best as he could. But that's how long it takes when they say, well, let's do it the right way. That's 2004 until 2012 before a deal was even enacted. We can't do that with the world. They're just going to keep screwing us. That was to get a deal that was decent, but not good. So it takes the shock that he's trying to do to get this done.
Well, in hindsight, Congress is the only ones that are actually going to stay in freaking power for a while. So I can understand that, unless we actually do like a limit Congress. But
term limits.
He can do tariffs, but he can't seal a full trade deal without the congressional approval, without the vote of both countries. But he can go ahead and issue tariffs now, but that's not like having an official trade deal.
Okay.
But he's only able to do it with Canada because of using what is it? Do you know what it was? He designated them not terrorists. emergency declaration, emergency powers because of the fentanyl.
Yeah.
That's what's allowing him to do some go around of the USMCA, and that's what Rand Paul wanted to stop. But Trump has backed off a little bit and said, okay, I'm putting these tariffs in place with you, Canada and Mexico, but we're still staying. Well, Mexico, he's actually made a deal, and I think he may have already dropped Mexico out of it, or he's come close to it.
Well,
but
Mexico's taken the tariff. Okay, she's already said, she's like, we're gonna deal with the tariff. We're gonna take the tariff, and we're actually gonna work on the fentanyl crisis that we caused, and they're actually working with us. Mexico is actually legitimate working with us. I think it's because they don't want to. I wonder if they're going to give us the whole. We can call it Gulf of America, even though we're doing it. It is Gulf of America right now, but they're like, we changed everything on Google and all kinds of places, even WWE. They have a wrestler on WWE called I know it's Americano, El Macho Americano, and they were doing like an AI video of his stuff, and everybody was upset for the AI video, but nobody noticed that they had for the AI video Gulf of America. It was awesome.
Well, the Canada thing, I'm not quite sure what's going on with Canada, because you've got Doug Ford of Ontario saying, hey, I'm fine for putting them all at zero. But then Carney is the actual leader of Canada right now, and he's saying, we're going to match it. We're going to match you and do this. But he's got to do that. He's got to do that because they got their election coming up. So he's got to put up that front.
Yeah, he's also saying that Canada is going to be the new leadership of the world versus America.
How?
Like,
they don't even use their military.
Dude, I have no idea.
Daniel Tosh said it best. Canada's got the best fence in the world if you can afford it. Yeah, it's America. You know, It's easy and cool to be the hippie country when you got that Kevlar blanket of freedom wrapped around your frozen ass.
That's
like, come on. We don't even use our military. We know, Canada. We got this. Yeah.
And I still think I put it as a decent over 50% percentage that if Carney wins, Alberta becomes a state.
There's going to be a long process for that, but Alberta has already put in as like list of demands for the parliament. If these list of demands aren't met, they're becoming America.
And Daniel put out a post on it, and I may have read some of it a couple of weeks ago. If you read through her demands, there's no way in hell that Carney would go for any of them. None of them. Zero. Mm-hmm. And Poilievre might even back off on some of them, but he would do some. He would negotiate. But Carney, if Carney wins, Alberta's gone. Possibly Saskatchewan and Manitoba.
I don't know about Saskatchewan.
We don't want British Columbia, even though some people have said that's too iffy. There's too much British Columbia. But if you look at the polls and the amount of seats that Saskatchewan and Alberta has, both of them are very conservative. I mean, Alberta really conservative.
It's liberal.
You imagine how pissy some of the hockey fans in Canada would get if one of those newly minted American teams won the Stanley Cup.
I don't know. BC would be actually be good because they had some really good.
BC would become the Pacific Northwest. It would be like the ultra liberal epicenter of the West Coast. Because
but they have really good hunting stuff.
Nobody wants Toronto. Vancouver, dude. Nobody. I mean, the only reason why there are so many films and shows that are made up there is because of the tax breaks that they get. That's it.
Yeah, that is true. But I really like the animals there that you can hunt.
Tasty critters.
Oh, dude, you can get a moose. I mean, those things are terrifying at best.
And one of the one of the advantages of making BC another state is you wouldn't need a passport to drive to Alaska anymore.
That is true.
Yeah, one of the issues though is that's where a lot of the Chinese triads is in British Columbia, and that's where they make the drugs, and they've got a lot of influence with the Port of Vancouver, and their inspections of goods going in and out. So that's
Just
where
send a
we
Ranger battalion up there.
No, it's gotta be a scalpel. You'd sell them Delta.
No, because just like he was trying to say earlier, you gotta be a sledgehammer. Because if you go through with the scalpel, by the time you're done, by the time you're even remotely in the door, everything's gonna have been moved or destroyed.
Okay, you got a good point.
Oh well, one of the other things to watch out for that you're seeing online a lot, the idiots, and some people, when an idiot says it, they actually buy into this. Like Schumer put it out, like, oh, Trump is an agent of Putin because he has 0% tariffs listed for Russia.
Ooh, he already fucked him bad. He screwed over Putin really bad.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the left,
percentage of tariff times 0 is 0. We've got an embargo on them. We're not trading with them. So, it's 0. It doesn't matter. But
speaking of the
people are
left,
buying into that.
Okay, John.
So, you know how everybody was talking about, I mean, the world saw how mentally incompetent Joe Biden was there toward the end, right?
No, not one bit.
And how the talking heads of the left and the senior ranking officers of the party were like, oh, he's sharp as a tack, right?
Yeah.
There are so many book deals being inked for Democrats right now that they are coming out saying, oh, we knew that he was compromised and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, there was a cover up. Only problem with that is that could be filed under dereliction of duty, and that could be classified as treason. So if he was mentally incompetent and unable to perform his job, what laws that were auto-pinned into existence now become null and void?
Well, there was a woman, Lindy Lee, who got I listened to her podcast on the Sean Ryan. She basically got fired, and she's writing a book too. But they found out like a lot of stuff that she didn't know. I mean,
well, like whenever he goes on these state visits, they're putting fluorescent tape on the ground so he knows where to go.
Well, yeah,
they didn't allow the White House residential staff to go into certain rooms, so that way they wouldn't be able to hear the conversations taking place behind closed doors.
Well, yeah, there's
Kamala Harris's staff even came up. Somebody leaked it out of Kamala Harris's camp and said that they had even had a death pool drawn up where they had a pool of federal judges that were on standby to swear her in the event that Joe Biden died mysteriously.
Oh, wow.
And it got to the point where they said, I think today or yesterday, I heard that he at times didn't even know he was president of the United States. He thought he was just president of NATO.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw that.
Wow. That's
yeah. I mean, he wasn't even cognitive enough to understand what it was that he was signing. I mean, he was using that auto pen. So that now sets up legal arguments as to whether or not they are law.
Well, okay.
Because if he wasn't mentally capable to do the job, you're not mentally capable enough to sign anything.
Okay, on that note, there are some legal stuff they can do on that. I mean, if it's hard, it's one of those things that it's hard to verify if they use the auto signature or not. Even though, I mean, if you can come up with the evidence and everything, yeah, yes, absolutely. But it's one of those hard things to where if I say, if our company does something and I sign for everybody, okay, but I used the auto thing. But if we all agreed that everybody's signed for it, it's still, and it's more or less somewhat everybody's signature, it's
Yeah,
still
but
illegal.
unfortunately, David, that logic does not apply when it comes to signing bills into law or signing executive orders or issuing presidential pardons.
You still need evidence that it's not his signature, and you
The
still
smoking
need.
gun is there somewhere. Somebody just
Oh
needs
yeah,
to be
yeah,
able
yeah,
to
yeah.
say, yeah.
handwriting analysis. I've seen a video where they slowly overlap all of the auto pen. They're all going to be the same.
But
So handwriting analysis, you can differentiate.
Yeah,
But
you can
the
argue
only-
the fact that the auto pen signatures are all exact because nobody signs their name the same way 2 times.
But the only factor that you're forgetting about is if he goes up and it's like, no, I did sign that.
If the arguments are there and the evidence is out there and the testimony can be given that he was in fact not the one actually signing these. I mean, yes, he was sitting at the desk, but it was an auto pen signing these things, then they should not be considered valid or law because
You're absolutely right, but you still have to prove it.
Well, like he said, all of these people are coming out backstabbing him now in their books.
Yeah.
And this stuff is going to come out in the books. Like, yeah, I was in this room and this person signed it and he didn't know this. This is going to come out in those books, and then they'll know where to start and who to talk
all it
to.
takes is one person to be offered a deal of immunity from Pam Bondi, and it's over. Yeah, I mean, the rest of that house is going to fall like dominoes.
Okay. Now, going off of that, what
Okay,
was
based on that reaction, did you hear anything that I just said?
Yeah, but
Okay.
you still but okay.
I understand, David, that you still have to prove it, but like what I just said, so if you pay attention to what I'm saying,
No.
Hold on. Ceasefire. If you get if you get testimony, sworn affidavit testimony from people that are willing to testify because they've gotten deals cut with, for them by the Attorney General, those are admissible in a court of law. That is the evidence that you need. Evidence.
Someone comes
The
up.
definition of evidence is proof.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, not definition. That's a synonym.
Absolutely.
Yes, the hard work is being able to find these people, to be able to connect the dots, to be able to get that smoking gun and put it as People's Exhibit A. I understand what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely, Johnny. You're absolutely right. And hopefully one day we have that. Hopefully in like 2 weeks. That would be awesome. If someone goes up and makes a mistake, because honestly, people are stupid. They want to boast of how, oh, I got all this law stuff signed by an automaker, and we did everything. We already know who was actually the leader of the White House at the time. It wasn't Joe Biden. It was his lawyer.
No, it's more of his wife, but yeah.
But yeah, it was more or less a combination of the two. And his son, a crackhead, okay? A legitimate, we found out 6 years in a row, a legitimate crackhead. Okay? We found all this stuff out.
Tone it down there. Acuna Hurtado's bro. All ramped up over nothing.
Oh my God.
Speaking of Hunter, did you see the series of videos that he put up on TikTok where he's just like staring into the camera and he's panning around because apparently he's broke now?
Yeah. All of his paint gear went up in flames.
Well, it's funny what happens when the government cuts off your laundered money supply.
Those were legitimate paintings, man.
Oh no, I'm talking about the Biden family in general.
Oh yeah. I still want to know what happened to that. There was another thing that we'll touch on a little bit, was the $40 billion they were supposed to do for infrastructure for internet. That was hilarious.
Yeah, that gets to a complicated issue of how different places had to submit for this and then submit that and wait for this to be approved. I think it's you're probably referring to the comedian, the Daily Jon Stewart.
Yeah, Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart. They were going through it with Jon Stewart that you have to do this step, then this step, then this step, and then he just lost it.
Yeah, it was hilarious because you just see in his eyes, like everything clicked. He's like, "Oh my God, they're right."
And that's why you need all the employees in the federal government, because you got all these regulations and all these hoops that people have to jump through. And Trump is saying, and instead of like they said, I have a chart here that someone said, oh, look at all the new construction that was during Biden's administration, all this new construction. Yeah, it was because we gave companies money. And then there was like one chip plant. They finally had to halt construction because they couldn't reach any of their timelines because of regulation. So they halted construction. So when you've got 5 to 10 plus years, closer to 10, to build a plant or a factory, and Trump is knocking it down, and they're going to be able to get factories built in 2 to what it was 5 to 10 with all the regulations. And you were mentioning going after, you wanted to see Pam Bondi and all that, have someone that they're arresting. Elon put out one of the best statements I had heard on that, because I had always gone, hey, stop going against Pam, because she's got to build a case and she doesn't want the little guy. And he finally said it. He said, the people who are throwing the Molotov cocktails, those are the foot soldiers. We want to go after the generals.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole point, is they don't want, we want to see people in handcuffs right now. You don't want to see the person who threw it. You want to see the person who's directing hundreds of people doing it.
Yeah, because 9 times out of 10, people don't realize is that the foot soldiers, the guys, the grunts on the ground, they're given the minimum amount of information necessary just to do their job.
Yeah.
And at best, if there's any kind of organizational hierarchy, they're trained to do the job 2 jobs above them, and that's it. That's where their universe ends.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Here's one other thing that it just baffled me at how stupid people are, that people wanted this. This is 10 watts, and this was a couple of days ago.
This one's the core. We saw just recently Donald Trump's executive order to make it more difficult, specifically to women, trying to make it more difficult for women to be able to vote. We see one of the first things they do is try and restrict the vote. This is one of the things, though, that this is going to take power to the streets. And look, I don't know what the answer is on this, but I've been saying this. I think we need a shadow government, so when all these things come up every single day, we've got an alternate press conference telling the truth about what things are happening.
So all we really need is a shadow government.
And we had that
So-
during Trump's first term. Obama moved into a big house in D.C. and brought Valerie Jarrett with him. You know, the basically Iranian spy who lived in the White House for 8 years with Obama. And that's what they had supposedly put up, is their own shadow government running in the background. So that thing had already been running for 4 years before the election that Trump supposedly lost, but he didn't really. But the shadow government had already been running. But Obama, with that last statement, there was a last statement before the day before the election, or the weekend before, that was the statement that Joe Rogan just flipped out over, and why Joe Rogan supported Obama. Kind of at that point, I think Obama's power went.
You mean when Joe Rogan supported Trump? Right?
Yeah, that isn't what I said.
No,
That-
you said Joe Rogan supporting.
Joe Rogan heard Obama make the statement, and then the next day was the Joe Rogan Trump interview.
Yeah.
Where he mentioned
I
it.
think that was just coincidence, but he did mention it.
Well, when he mentioned it, that's what he brought up. That I think threw him over the edge. That no, we gotta get them out, and I'm supporting you. It was that one statement from Trump, or from Obama, a statement that there's several posts on my Facebook that have wordy dirds in them. Several posts where I just flipped out when I heard Obama say it.
Well, there was a lot of stuff where what they were doing was it was basically forcing everybody. It was like, if you have to vote this way. I mean, they did. I mean, looking back on interviews with like the Teamsters, the president of the Teamsters, and how when they went to the Democratic Party and they were talking to what's her name, Kamala Harris. They were talking to Kamala Harris, and basically she was like, "You better get on board. You better get on board."
Why do you sound borderline to say her name?
Because that's how you pronounce it in her native tongue. It's Indian.
And just
Kamala.
exactly where is her native tongue? No, it's not.
It's Kamala.
No, it's
Harris.
not.
Kamala Harris.
Okay. David.
If you mispronounce her name, it means you're racist. It doesn't mean you don't know how to pronounce it. It means you're racist. Unless you're a liberal, then you just
Well, then
mispronounced it.
I worked at
Then-
7-Eleven, so I know how to pronounce this.
then color me racist. I don't give a crap anymore. That was straight racist.
She's back on the stage now. She was making big speeches, and she's the part of it again. And I didn't watch it. You know, I just heard a little bit about it. But last night, it's like she's speaking again, and they're saying, "Oh yeah, she's going to get back in it." She doesn't have a chance in hell.
Well, okay. I've seen AOC, which she can actually run for president if she wanted to. I've seen Bernie again. I don't think that's gonna happen. He's getting way up there. They might try with Kamala Harris again. But I honestly, they're gonna, even Gavin Newsom with his new podcast that he's having, like other people from like the right side. But who was his first interview? It was like the main
Charlie Kirk.
yeah, Charlie Kirk. He had Charlie Kirk on Gavin Newsom's podcast. Now, saying that, the left is trying to make podcasts so they can get rid of the right side, Joe Rogan, and a lot of the right side, like Theo Vaughn, which these people aren't right. They're not Republicans. They're middle. If they agree with your policies, they'll go with you. If they don't, they won't. It's basic common sense with them. They're basically, I'm middle. I will vote Democrat.
They're they're self-proclaimed libertarians. When people most of the time these days call themselves libertarians, it just means that they're not willing to commit to one side or the other.
Exactly.
And the problem
And
is,
like, I see things down the middle. And, if you see things down the middle, that just means you're not putting enough effort into it.
the thing with Gavin Newsom
I'm
is,
sorry,
though,
go ahead.
he's. Oh, did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I don't know. Go ahead.
He's slick. He's slick. He can convince people, and and he sees what the left has done, how they've gone too far, and even though he's done it too, he sees it enough that in his little podcast, he's correcting it and saying, "Okay, yeah, we shouldn't be talking about this. Let's focus on this." So he's working his way over, and he'll be slick enough that I would be worried about him.
I am too, but hopefully we have somebody going to office that will be going into the office where they can combat that, because a lot of people we have to constantly remind these people how much he destroyed their state, his own state. He literally destroyed his own state. It's ridiculous. He shouldn't even been an afterthought for even coming to be president. I'm surprised he's still governor of California. But apparently, a good portion of that state is in the big cities. So the actual red parts of those states that should be able to get rid of him aren't a big enough voice for voting.
And the rest of it needs to go to Canada.
Yeah. And what's really sad is how long they take to vote for their senators and congressmen. It was like 150 days after the fact of election day. Going to the borderline of, we finally we found all the votes we needed for the guy that we wanted to be in office. So that whole state, I believe Lex Luthor from the Superman movie should have done it.
Oh yeah. I've put that out several times.
The problem with California is, that was a great scene.
And I lived on the San Andreas Fault. I lived on the Air Force Base. It's right on the San Andreas Fault, or nearby. Yeah, we had a couple of wild earthquakes.
Yeah, it would be really funny if you're in that scene and you're like, oh, wait a minute, Superman, I'll help you. Wait a minute, what does he want to do? No, hold on. I am somewhat all for that, but let's hear him out. Okay.
We'll help. Can we get you the nuke?
Yeah. Is it already gone? It's already gone, dude. You just sit back. What? You can reverse time. Sorry, I'm gonna have to bash your head in with the kryptonite now. You're a liability.
So, what do you think about Wisconsin?
I didn't understand it. I understand the fact that they wanted to pull money for the judge, so we get another judge in our pocket, in the right side pocket. And
if they control the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which they strengthened their control of now, I mean, they already had it because they just ended up replacing a Democrat with a Democrat. But what they will do is they will redistrict. Their state Supreme Court will be over the redistricting, and they will gerrymander out probably 2 conservatives. So they'll lose 2 conservative, gain 2 liberal representatives. Now, I say they'll gerrymander out 2, but what no one has mentioned specifically is that Wisconsin is slated to lose possibly 2 anyway, just from their population migration. But they talked about Elon, the oligarch, who got in there at the last minute, donating a little bit of money. But if you look, here's the people who donated to the liberal lady running for the Wisconsin court. Yeah, George Soros, the oligarch. These are the billionaires that donated to her. But no one talks about the oligarchs that are liberal. See, Reid Hoffman, 14 million. I think Elon's total might have been 12 or 14 million. The total that he donated. And they say he was so instrumental in the election last time. Well, he donated to Pennsylvania. He ran in Pennsylvania. Most of his stuff he did in Pennsylvania. All of his, giving $1 million for signing up and contests and all that. Pennsylvania, and it turned out we didn't even need Pennsylvania. So you can't say he bought the election. It wasn't like Zuckerberg in 2020, where he took and he had 400 million, not 60 something million that Elon had, 400 million. And he took probably close to half of it and directed it at a couple of counties in each swing state. Yeah. That is buying an election.
Yeah. Which they still should have. There's a lot of stuff they should have done, but they'll overpass it only because of the basic fact of Zuckerberg helped him win the election this time.
Hey, shall I play a video that is the EU, and it's how lax they have been on innovation for the last 40 years.
Yeah, and then we'll that'll be our closeout video.
Okay, let me pull it up.
I want to share with you one of the most interesting charts I've seen in my 40 years on Wall Street. Came out last month and it went viral for very obvious reasons. This is half of it. It was created by Andrew McAfee of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and he created a chart here based on scale of all the major 10 billion plus market cap companies that started from scratch. In other words, not mergers, not acquisitions, but started from scratch. And if you could look closer, you would see the usual names: Apple, Google, Facebook, etc. The color code is simple. The green is for high-tech startups, and the blue is for other ones. It's an impressive list. What turned an interesting chart into an amazing one is that he added Europe. And there it is. This tiny little bump in a log is the sole total of all startups over the last 50 years on the same scale as the United States. You have to ask yourself, what explains the difference? Well, it can't be population, because the US population is 360 million and the European Union is 450 million. It's probably not education, because some of the finest universities in the world are in Europe. The answer is that the United States offers, through low regulation and low taxation, the largest pool of investable assets in the world. In other words, if you're a German or a Brit and you have a great idea, you come to the United States. because that's where the action is. There is a huge pool of assets here as a result of accumulation of wealth over the years. The richest men in the world, with the exception of one Frenchman, is American. There are no Bill Gates in Europe. There's no Elon Musk in Europe or Bezos. But it must go beyond that, because it can't just be the flourishing of businesses. It has to be harmed. And maybe the first way it can be harmed is the high taxation and regulation in Europe. They have huge social costs that have to be funded. And there are punitive tax rates that take away the possibility of accumulating capital that would have created the opportunities that you see there. But it goes beyond just the accident of one market being 70 times larger than the other, is that this little blob here, representing the EU, is a very expensive blob. They have a parliament that has no power. Power is vested in commissioners who are not elected. They have a president of the EU. I don't know what she does. There's lots of other jobs on climate and productivity and investment, which could quite easily go away. The countries could handle them on their own. Now, that may be a debatable issue, but one thing that's not debatable is what they represent is high expense. Brussels is a beast that has to be fed. A very famous American criminal was called Willie Sutton. In the 1930s and 40s, he used to rob banks. Rob a bank, get caught, go to prison, get out of prison, rob a bank, go to prison. He was asked by a reporter, why did he rob banks, they say. And he allegedly said, because that's where the money is. And looking back at that chart, the needs of the EU is where's the money? The money's here. And so in recent years, you've seen European courts on the grounds of anti-competitiveness fining American high-tech companies around $10 billion US. Put another way, that's $10,000 million. You can imagine that that will pay for a lot of boondoggles, a lot of large salaries, a lot of cocktail parties. It creates nothing, but it takes away from the opportunities of the American firm to pay dividends or to develop further lines of business. And remember, the United States government was not paying these fines. You are, because the money came directly from the corporations that may be in your pension plan or in your investment portfolio. So the next time you look around at Europe's superciliousness about America, just remember this chart and this little bump in a log. Good luck.
That was awesome. And we are gonna go. We're gonna go ahead and land the plane. Next week we're gonna try and talk about who's buying TikTok. That was another thing I wanted to go over, but we're pressed for time this week.
I got one more thing I want to put up, and it's Wisconsin. They might have won the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which they were expected to win anyway, but 62 to 37%. Wisconsin now has voter ID enshrined in their constitution.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's real good.
So that shows you how the citizens really are about the issues and about voter ID.
Yeah.
You know, they put the big money into the judge, but they didn't put the big money in the referendum that was going to the Constitution.
Yeah. But Johnny Skelton is still on the road, so he bad internet. So he thanks you for all watching. All 8 people. I'm surprised. Usually don't get this much. 8 people all on X.
And if you're on YouTube, there is a like and subscribe button somewhere around. I'm not sure where it is.
Yeah,
But wherever it is, you're probably smart enough to find it since you're watching us. So go ahead and push it.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. I'm David Dickerman.
And I'm Bill Wild William.
Thank you all for watching again and spending this hour with us. Goodbye.
Later.